it's tough for me to prep for an interview, but the hardest part, Jeff, and I think that there's at least one listener that would agree with this, is if I already know this stuff, then there's two things that happen. If I already know everything, then it feels disingenuous to ask you. Or if I already know the stuff, I don't know if I approach it from the same curiosity. So I'm wondering what you would say to someone like me who's listening, who is used to winging it, on how do we get over the part where we're like, oh, I already know that. I can't ask that. I already know that. Or how do I act like I don't know that? Or what do I do for the listener because of this? Or, and part of it too is like, if I go into the things that I already know, then maybe I'm going above what the listener should know. Maybe I should slow down. So what are your thoughts there?
I think when I prep for an interview, I try to know as much as I can and then let them talk through. So I think it's okay if you know a particular topic to tee me off, because in this scenario, as your guest, you're allowing me to kind of spotlight, and then you can be part of that conversation naturally because you do have a point of view on that topic, and then you can, generate a conversation. I look at it as it's a conversation, not a Q&A session. So, you kind of bring something up, I say something, you say, well, what about this? Well, would you have done that? It's like, and then we're kind of going back and forth a little bit, not specific. You ask a question, I give an answer, you give another question. So I look at, the reason it's called Classic Conversations is I think of it more as a conversation than just what's your favorite color? What's your favorite, little, just asking them things that, just has an answer and you move on, because frankly, that's how you fill the time too.
All right. So with that in mind, how do we go about doing that? Is there a suggestion that would help us to be able to prep a little bit better?
I love to dig in. I listen to somebody if they've already been on a podcast, because you get an idea if they're a talker or not, or a short answerer. Right. Okay.
You don't want to listen to mine. I always give the 5-10 minute answer. I'm like in detail, and then you do this, and then you do this, and this is how it works.
No, but that's good. But then that, I interviewed Ed Asner, right? And his memoir was like 120 pages. The time on Mary Tyler Moore should have been 120 pages. You know what I mean? So he, I knew he wasn't a talker. So sometimes I would lead a question with a little more information, and then so he could then give the information. But if you know that up front, then you can kind of be prepared for what type of host for that engagement you're going to be. So you do the normal stuff. You Google them, you look at their, in my case, IMDb, if they have a wiki, there's articles been written on them. There's always like some hidden things. But I'll tell you, my biggest trick is listen to old interviews. Nothing that they did recently, because it's the old interviews where they have a much more, useful response, because they haven't been asked the question for the last 5 years, right? And a lot of times they will say something and the host will kind of ignore it or go by it because they weren't prepared for that. And they go, oh, I really love this. And you write that down, and then you go into that, you dig into that. And so when they're on your show, you say, well, let's talk about this. And they go, whoa, and then they just start kind of talking. So it's just a matter of trying to find nuggets that maybe they haven't talked about before.